Welcome back to the Lipoedema podcast. We are your host, Shell.
And Tiana, and tonight we are joined by special guest and Lipoedema warrior, Cathrine McInerney. Hello, Cathrine, and welcome to the Lipoedema podcast.
Hello. How are you?
We're great.
We are great, thank you. We are going to get straight into it tonight, and I would like to know, Cathrine, how did you come to learn of lipoedema, and when was that?
So I learnt about lipoedema on Instagram, believe it or not. We believe
it.
It was last October where I was just scrolling for research, really, as to how I was feeling, because I was on the understanding that maybe I had lymphedema because I had some swelling. And I saw a post where it said lymphedema versus lipoedema. And I thought, oh, what's lipoedema? So it was a really good comparison chart. And I just ticked all the boxes of lipoedema. And I thought, right, I know this word. I need to research some more about it. And, that's how the journey started. So my initial thing was to go to my GP, and I told her about it. Of course, she didn't know about it. Prior to going to the appointment, I downloaded some, what to take to your doctor from Lipoedema Australia. And it was kind of disappointing, actually, because she just said to me, oh, it's not a thing. They just want to get money out of you. She used those words. And I said, well, I think it is a thing. And I left there so disappointed that I just, and I love this doctor. For everything else, she just ticks all the boxes. She's been my doctor for years, but she just wasn't educated. And I just felt so sad. So I just thought, okay, I'm not going to let that stop me. So I did more research, found out about Dr. Lekich and the Zoom call that was on offer. So I joined the Zoom call and, just learnt so much from that hour with him. And then from there, I did a telehealth call with Dr. Teo after sending various photos of myself. And he diagnosed me. So that was back in November 2023, so not too long ago. And then February of this year, I had an in-person appointment with Dr. Teo, and he confirmed, what I was thinking, what they were thinking. So, it was quite quick from learning that word, that post on Instagram, to a few months later that I found out, okay, this is what I've got. And it was such a relief, really, because I didn't know what was happening, why I was gaining weight, why I couldn't lose the weight. And that was my biggest thing. And it all just sort of started with the menopause. Yeah. So I believe it really started when I was 47, because that's when I started showing signs of menopause. And that's when I can remember the creeping weight. So it started really slowly. And then, it just was subtle weight gain. And I just noticed it, but it wasn't an issue. And I'd go to my GP and I'd say, look, I'm just putting on a bit of weight. What should I do? And she's, the typical exercise more, eat better. And I went, okay. So I tried all of that. And then the weight just kept creeping, and especially in my legs and the soreness. And I can remember that tenderness when someone would touch me. That would go back years when I first noticed that. and the unexplained bruises that I'd see, and I'd think, how did I do that? And just the heaviness in my legs, the pain when I'd be walking. So finding that diagnosis was a relief. Yeah. So at least I had a name. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And firstly, good on you for taking the information to your GP and trying to get the answers. Like, that's what we're trying to get everybody to do so we can get the word out there. We can educate more. Wasn't the best response from her, and I'm sorry for that.
Yeah.
But good on you for doing that in the first instance. Like, that is advocating for yourself. And big claps to you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So you did say so this has all happened since menopause at 47.
Yeah. Yeah.
So before that, had you ever had any issues with your legs or anything before that?
No, it was just menopause. That's when it all began. So through puberty, I was very slim, right through even my pregnancies. I've had 2 pregnancies. Both of those, I gained the usual baby weight, but I was able to lose it. And then, it was just menopause that I just thought, okay, that's when I really noticed, and I couldn't lose it. So, and then all the other symptoms started as well.
Yep. And for you, like, trying to pinpoint, like, I'm not doing anything different. Like, why is my body doing this when my life is the same?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
after I had a hysterectomy, I had a huge progression. Like, I put on 20 kilos, and I know it wasn't all fat to start with. It was a lot of fluid, and it was a lot of damaged lymph and all of those things. But I never got rid of that weight. Like, and everyone kept saying, oh, you must have changed. Like, I did not change a thing. I was like, I was still eating the same, still exercising the same. Everything was the same. And it's just, it's maddening, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
it's
your body
frustrating.
can change with no input from you.
Exactly. Yeah.
So with that frustration, like, no, you go.
No, I was going to say, just totally agree. And just that feeling of that you don't have control over your body. I really struggle with that. And I still struggle with that because I feel like the progression is still going on. Like I'm still putting on weight. So just that feeling of loss of control. Yeah.
And as Tiana and I have said, it's like our bodies don't replicate the effort that goes into caring for ourselves. Do you know? Like we're looking after ourselves, we're eating well, we're exercising, we're doing all the mindfulness stuff, we're doing all the things, but from a perfect, like just from an aesthetic point of view, you wouldn't know the effort that goes into looking after ourselves. You know, and that is frustrating too.
Yeah, totally
Menopause
agree.
is such a hard thing in isolation. I've, been doing a lot of investigating about menopause in preparation, like just to try and be super prepared after pregnancy. And a lot of women struggle, regardless of having lipedema. A lot of women struggle through perimenopause, and they do have weight gain, and what they used to do doesn't work for them anymore, and it like your whole mentality has to shift. So it's a big deal on its own. And on top of that, finding out you have a chronic condition would be incredibly overwhelming, especially because your GP, and rightly or wrongly, would suggest that it's probably perimenopausal symptoms, and it's pretty normal because we do see intermittent weight gain. We do see, especially in the belly fat region, we see that our stress response is changed. We see our efforts to cardiovascular workouts change or become diminished, and it's just such a confusing time. So if the doctor can easily prescribe, well, she's in perimenopause and that's that, then that would be easy for them. But not so.
That's exactly right. Well, even with menopause at 47, I went to my doctor and I said, could I be going through menopause? And she said, oh, you're too young. And she said, oh, it happens around 51. And I went, oh, really? I don't know about that. I'm bloating. I'm, this, that, weight gain, just not feeling right. And again, she said I was too young to be going through menopause. So and it was when I was 51, she did some bloods and she said, oh, you're actually post-menopause. And I went, what? So I was going through menopause when I thought I was at 47 or earlier, I don't know.
Suffering through that whole process.
Yeah, and, I just had to navigate it by myself and get over-the-counter supplements or online supplements to try and alleviate the symptoms of menopause. And that's how I've been managing that, really. Yeah. So it's been a crazy ride.
Sounds like it.
It has been.
Yeah.
Oh. So going back to lipedema, like how has that affected your everyday life, like your work and your activity levels? Has it impacted you?
Yeah, greatly, actually. So I used to be very active. I have, in my past 10 years or in the last 10 years, I've used to do a lot of running. I've run 3 marathons and I just can't run anymore. So that's really disappointing because I'm flat out, if I go for a good walk, let's say above 5 kilometres, the next day I'm really struggling. So I'll be limping around and just feeling that pressure in my feet, especially. I don't know. I know lipedema is not in our feet, but I feel like from, say, the knee down, the incredible pressure that is in my lowers just affects my feet as well. So especially my left leg and my left foot. I could be, if I go from sitting to standing, I'm limping for a while until, I just get it right. So it's hard. It has affected my everyday life, especially activity. So I find that I'm just can't do as what I would normally be doing in my life. Yeah.
You'd be pretty attuned to your activity levels coming from, I understand you used to be a personal trainer.
Yeah, definitely. So, I would train ladies. I was a personal trainer for 6 years and at my fittest, and I could do so much. And the first inkling of, things starting to turn was I could no longer do a push-up because my joints were just aching. I couldn't hold my body weight anymore. So that was that first sign that things were changing within me. And I remember, having clients where now I think they had lipedema, but I didn't know about lipedema back then, and I wish I did. And there's one particular lady where I think back now and I think, oh, if only I knew then, I could help her because we were doing everything right. She was eating right. She was doing PT sessions with me. She would come to group sessions as well. And the weight just wasn't budging for her. And if I think back of her shape and, all of that, I'm sure she has lipedema. And it makes me sad because I know of it now, but now I couldn't help her back then. Yeah.
So what would you have done differently? If you had known of lipedema back then for this lady, how would you have cared for her differently?
I think I would have just supported her more. So, the times when we would so with personal training, you do weigh-ins and measurements. So there'd be the times when it would be her turn to do her personal measurements and see where she's at with her journey. And some of the times her measurements were bigger. And just to know what to say to her and say, you know, it's okay. I'm here to support you. And just let her know about all this available conservative management. You know, she could have been wearing compression. She could have been looking after her lymphatic system, which, yeah, up until then, I didn't know what lymphatics was. So, yeah, I just feel a little bit helpless that I couldn't help her. And, I just wish I knew about it.
And I suppose just piggybacking on from that question, in terms of your training and your exercise, if you had have known about lipedema sooner, how might you have amended your training, if at all, that might have created a bit more longevity in your active lifestyle?
Yeah, that's a good question. And because back then I felt great. I felt at my fittest, and it was, I don't know that I could have stopped the progression because, I mean, menopause was always coming. So
that's right.
I just don't know, maybe starting that back when I was 47, if I knew then what was coming, that I could have started wearing compression back then. I could have started looking after my lymphatics. So, yeah, I think if I was aware, I would have been, more in tune to starting those treatments.
Yeah, that's fair. And speaking of those treatments, I'd love you to go through what you're doing to manage your lipedema now. And it's been such a short time since you've been diagnosed. So for the rest of our listeners, please bear in mind that we're all individuals, and it takes us all our own amount of time to get to where we know, to sustain or to support our own lipedema. But what have you found to be working for you, Cathrine?
So I think the biggest thing is lymphatic health. So I immediately, I started with the compression, wearing that. So that was pretty tricky. So I started towards the end of spring into summer. So that was really hard.
That is very tricky. I think I started around the same time. I think I started in February last year, and that was such a shit time to start. I was so down on myself.
It was so hard, but I persevered with it because as soon as I remember getting my compression in the mail, and as soon as I put it on, the relief, and it was like, oh, thank God. Yeah, so I persevered, but in saying that, there were some days where I just couldn't put them on. It was just too hot, or, I just couldn't cope. So I would put them on when I got home, and I'd have the aircon on rather than wearing them through the day. So compression was my first go-to, and then I discovered the Chelsea Jean gloves, and they've been a godsend as well. I absolutely love those gloves, and I do my self-care every day, usually in the morning before my shower. And, they're my favourite item. And I feel so different. I remember the first time I had a MLD session with a therapist, I had a lot of brain fog as well, and that's a menopause symptom. And I came out of there, and the clearness, the brain fog just seemed to lift, and it was like, yay! So, yeah, I'm really hooked on my lymphatic health. So I do, as I said, my gloves every day, and I try and see my therapist every 3 weeks. And
you really did tackle the most challenging thing first. That's so awesome.
Yeah, and at the moment I am, I've hired the CJ & Co pump, so I'm giving that a go. Yeah, and I quite like it, so I'm considering purchasing it moving forward. It's just that added bonus to for my lymphatic health. So that's been the biggest change for me, and to relieve the soreness, relieve the pressure, the swelling. I'm loving that.
That's awesome. And I'd really like you to talk through, just for our listeners, how you went about finding the compression garments that you have chosen.
Yeah, so Dr Teo was a big help. So he gave me a few brands to try, and I considered the specially measured and made ones, but they were a little bit out of my price range. So I ended up buying off-the-shelf ones from BioFlect. And, I was really happy with them. I'm actually due to buy, because I've had my favourite pair for over 6 months now. So it does get a little bit stretched. So I am due to buy another pair. But, yeah, I just found the BioFlect one to be amazing, and it worked for me. And it was reasonably priced as well, so affordable.
Yeah, that's right. I really think that those that are pushing that it's, flat knit, custom only or nothing, are really limiting the people that just want to do something for their health. And the fact that you're doing your own lymphatic massage every day, you're going to an MLD therapist, you're using a pump, and you're wearing compression, that is cumulative, conservative management that's going to put you in a really good position to manage your condition. And it doesn't have to be the $600 to $800 pair of custom-made flat knit compression. But if you do find that that's something that you want to explore, that's your prerogative. The reality is you can get results doing other things. And I think that's important for women. I know that some women may have trouble getting it on and off. So especially people that have arthritis in their hands, or at the moment, I have a massive pregnancy belly. So even getting compression socks on is a little bit ridiculous. It's a bit comical, but I'm still trying to persevere through that. The reality is, we have limitations that we need to work through, and compression, whilst it's great and something that you can do every day, isn't the be all and end all of conservative management. The fact that you have garments and you can wear them every day, I think that what you can do consistently makes the most difference. And if that's compression, that's great. If that's anti-inflammatory diet, that's great. If that's self-massage, that's awesome. And you're doing a number of those things.
Yeah, totally agree there. Yeah. And with the, as far as nutrition goes, I try and keep it on the lower carb side. I haven't cut out carbs completely. And I have to admit, if I do have a carby meal, I definitely feel it the next day. Yeah, I'm definitely puffier and, more achy. So I understand that we have to try and keep the inflammatory low and try and eat low inflammatory, but it is a bit tricky with a family. I don't want to be cooking separate meals, and, we've got to live. So I'm just doing my best. I try and choose those low inflammatory choices, but it's not every day. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really realistic perspective. And it's one that both Shell and I share as well. We all know exactly what we should be doing, but we actually have to live our lives and support our families as well. So we find that happy medium. And now that you've implemented these conservative managements, have you noticed any improvement in your activity, in pain, what are you feeling at the moment with your lipedema?
At the moment, I'm still feeling quite a bit of pain. That seems to come and go. So if I find around the time when I do have the manual lymphatic drainage with the therapist, I do have a stint of feeling better. But yeah, it's up and down really. I can't pinpoint. One day is different from the next. I think it depends very much on what I've eaten on the day before is how I feel the next day. And then I have to, be in tune with my body and, okay, so I'm more achy today. So let's get those compression on. Let's do the pumping tonight, that sort of thing. I'm just trying to listen to my body and just do my management as I feel on the day. Yeah, really.
That's awesome. Yeah, we have that. You're listening to your body, and I think that's the most important thing. Just for our listeners, I'm curious because I feel like we all, although we have the same condition, we have a different experience of pain. I'd really love to hear if you can describe the lipedema pain that you experience. That might be helpful to some of our listeners. What does lipedema pain feel like to you?
Yeah, so it feels very tender. So especially from the knee down, it's like a constant sore. And the degree of that varies from day to day. It could be that my legs just feel heavier on a particular day rather than painful. Sometimes it's more pain than heaviness. So it just switches. It just seems to switch from being, painful to heavy to just generally tender. But it tends to always be there. Like it's sort of there in the background, but I try and not to focus too much on that pain. I try and keep moving just to keep everything flowing, really.
Yeah, nice. I wonder whether it might be helpful for us, Shell, to just give a refresher of our own experience of what lipedema pain was to us as well. So for me, definitely the same as you, Cathrine, that tenderness and like it's tender to touch. So my husband would like grab my leg and like give me a tickle, and it would be quite painful. Or my children would sit on my, lap, and that would be quite painful. But also I found I would get a dull ache, especially in the evening, and it was either I used to think, oh, well, maybe I just worked out really hard, or maybe I didn't work out enough or move my body enough today. So I was trying to make excuses for this pain without understanding what it was, but it was this dull ache, but it felt so deep in the muscles and even the bones. It just felt deep right into my legs, this ache, and it would mostly be like in the afternoon and evening.
Yeah.
Shell, do you want to cover your pain experience with lipedema?
Yeah, mine's very similar. So a lot of like touch pain, so my legs aren't sore generally, but if they were touched or someone leant on them, and it was my lower legs mainly, but I guess as it's progressed, it's in my upper legs as well. And now because of hypermobility and it all together, like the weakness in my legs, like I get a real like a wash of weakness, like I'm losing control, like that, like there's just no structure in my hips and across my pelvis, and my knees have started doing it too the last couple of weeks. So I really find like that's how mine's progressed, and I don't know if it is the hypermobility, I don't know if it is lipedema and that connective tissue. I'm really unsure. It's all connected. I know it is, because a lot of what we've heard about fascia and all of that. But that's mine is really a weakness, a lot of weakness.
Yeah, Cathrine, we haven't covered that. Do you think, just reflecting on your journey with lipedema, do you think you've got hypermobility as well or anything else?
No, I wouldn't say hypermobility, though I sometimes when I'm at the gym, because I try and go to the gym, my knees ache. And sometimes I feel like if I'm on a particular machine and I'm extending too much and then bringing my knee back, it's like, oh, what did I just do there? I just feel like it's just moved a little bit out of alignment. Yeah, I get that type of feeling, but no, I don't think I'm, have hypermobility as such, but there's just some movements where I think maybe I've extended just a little bit too far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like your legs are under a lot of pressure because of the heaviness, so all your joints are sort of buckling, I suppose. Your muscles are trying to keep you. I mean, you obviously must have some strength about you. I mean, personal trainers, they come up in the strength train, and you said you did marathons, so your legs must be very strong. Probably a blessing to have such a strong foundation, because I could imagine that it would probably deteriorate a lot quicker for people that don't come from a background of activity.
Yeah, I agree there. So I guess, it's a blessing that I was so active and, always on my feet and happy to go out for a run. And, I think that has helped, definitely. And maybe it's also helped. I have quite a high pain tolerance as well. So I feel even though I'm uncomfortable, I can still, go about my day and it doesn't stop me. I can still, get things done.
That's excellent. We want quality of life.
Yeah, so true.
The fact that you can get on with it is fantastic. So you've been diagnosed, you're implementing some really great conservative management strategies. What's planned for this year for your lipedema?
Yeah, just to continue, really. I think, down the track, I'm not discounting surgery. That might be something that I will consider down the track a bit, but I think right now I just want to become master of my own conservative management and just get that right and just continue on this path, because since, learning about lymphatic health and focusing on how important it is for us to have that fluid leave our bodies, that's my main focus, just to keep on top of that, keep doing my morning routine, keep seeing my therapist, using the pumps, wearing the compression, all of that. So I just, that's my immediate plan for this year.
Great plan. I was very gung-ho, wanting to do surgery, and I realized more and more that the conservative management is absolutely key, because no matter how many surgeries I have or plan to have, I still need to have that foundation of conservative management. We have this condition forever, and we need to learn how to manage it properly. So well done to you. You're doing all the right things. You started off on a great foot. I can't believe that you printed out stuff from Lipedema Australia to take to your GP initially. I wouldn't have been that forward thinking. So, and it's great that Lipedema Australia have those resources for us. So for those of you who are newly diagnosed or think that you have lipedema, please go to Lipedema Australia's website and check that stuff out, print it out and bring it to your GP.
Yeah, definitely. I just wouldn't have known what I was talking about. I think I would have got flustered or something if I didn't have the flyer to say, please, look at this, please read more about it. And she didn't believe me, but I left her the flyer. So it was something.
You put it out there. Yeah, you put it out there. So
yeah. So
something
true.
might happen.
Hopefully.
Yeah. All right, we're going to ask you our last question, and this is sort of a little different because you didn't get diagnosed till later and you didn't have any issues till later, but I'm still going to ask it. If you could go back and give your younger self a pep talk, what would you tell her?
Yeah, so I would probably tell her to be kind to her older self. And yeah, so she didn't know it at the time, but, you know, her older self may need a hug or two to get through, you know, the later years and the challenges that she's now facing.
Love that.
Oh, I love that. Bit of self-compassion from our younger self.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, Cathrine, thank you so much for being so brave and sharing with us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
You.
Thank you for having me on.
No
I've really enjoyed talking to you both.
Yay. Thank you so much, Cathrine. You take care of yourself. We look forward to hearing back from you after a year of conservative management. How are you going? That would be so good.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Awesome. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
When we started the Lipoedema podcast, we relied on word of mouth and existing connections.
Our following has happened organically, and we are so honoured by your support.
As we learn more about the world of social media and algorithms, we have a request.
When you are listening to our podcast or watching on YouTube, let us know what you think.
Hit follow or subscribe.
Leave us a comment or write a review.
The more engagement we get, the more our message is shared.
And the greater our reach to those women suffering in silence.
Thank you for listening to the Lipoedema podcast. Lipedema and its symptoms vary from individual to individual. The opinions and advice voiced in this podcast are of a personal nature and used for educational purposes.
Please take away from this podcast what resonates with you, and please see your GP or preferred specialist for diagnosis and healthcare. We are Shelley and Tiana from the Lipoedema podcast. Until our next episode, bye for now.